السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
Just before we start, I request the brothers, if there's gaps in front of you, please fill those gaps up. It just makes it easy for the brothers coming late to find a spot, not stepping over others. Jazakallahu khair. Shukran. الحمد لله إن الحمد لله نستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. أما بعد، وقد قال الله تعالى في كتاب العزيز بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وأوحى ربك إلى النحل أن اتخذي من الجبال بيوتا ومن الشجر مما يعرشون ثم كلي من كل الثمرات فاسلكي سبل ربك ذللا يخرج من بطونها شراب مختلف ألوانه فيه شفاء للناس إن في ذلك لآية لقوم يتفكرون. My dear respected elders, brothers in Islam, I've just recited a few verses from Surah Al-Nahl. Nahl means the bee. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has named some of the surahs of the Quran after animals and insects as well. Because in the creation of Allah Ta'ala there is examples for us we can learn, just like Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam. He took a lesson from an ant, one of the smallest of creatures. He took a lesson from an ant, and Allah Ta'ala has put as an example that incident, and the whole surah is called Surah An-Naml, which means the ant. And in this surah, Surah An-Nahl, Allah Ta'ala tells us, and we take lessons from the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So at the start of the verses, وَأَوْحَى رَبُّكَ إِلَى النَّحْلِ, Allah Ta'ala tells us that Allah Ta'ala has sent wahi down, revelation, or inspired the bee. So wahi has many forms. There is the wahi of the Anbiya alayhi salatu, which we know about. Allah Ta'ala inspires them or sends down revelations through Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam. There is also, we also get inspired to do certain things, where Allah Ta'ala guides us. This is also inspiration. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also guides His creation. Now the scientists have now said, oh look, this is in their DNA. This is in the DNA of the creatures, that they know what to do, and they know their job and their duties. Well, isn't that DNA itself inspiration, and isn't that wahi itself? And this is a thing about the scientists of today, where especially atheism, where it is spreading throughout the world, and they're saying that the most dominant religion or non-religion which will overtake Christianity is the belief of atheism. Everything happened by coincidence. There's no power or creator behind the existence of the universe. Now we have to look at their policies. All they have done, all the scientists have done, is figured out how things work. They figured out how things work, and they try to justify that because they know how things work now, that it happens by itself. Can you imagine if you sent a mobile phone back 500 years, and they saw the mobile phone, they said, what a wonderful thing. We can communicate with people on the other side of the world, we can watch videos, we can do this, we can do that. Some mastermind, some very highly intelligent being has created this mobile phone. Then they opened it up, examined it, and they've figured out how the components work and how the reception works and everything like that. Now they figured out how it works. Now they say, well, no. Well, we know how it works now. So it happened all by itself. So before, everyone used to take, there's a higher being, higher creator, and now they figure out how things work. Now they consider them make it by itself. There's actually more evidence and proof that there is a force behind the creation itself. So فَأَوْحَى رَبُّكَ إِلَى النَّحْلِ. Now Allah Ta'ala speaks about some of His marvels in the bee itself. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned about that Allah Ta'ala has created, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, the creator of the worlds. There are different worlds, and some of the interpretation of these worlds are the worlds of humans, jinns, insects, malaika, angels, the world of fish, of birds, all different worlds Allah Ta'ala has created. Umamam amthalukum, that are similar to yours. Now if you look at the structure of the life of the bees, is also similar to ours. Now some of the incredible things about the bees, that the bees, from the moment they are created, the moment they are born, they know exactly what their duties are. And they have many different duties. Because you look at the structure, the society of the bees. You have one leader, the queen bee. And now the queen bee's sole job is to reproduce more bees. Then you have certain worker bees inside the hive that are building the wax and building the hives. There are certain servant bees that are just solely there to serve the queen bee, constantly cleaning and constantly feeding the queen bee. Because the queen bee stays in this one spot. Then you have another structure that there's security guards. You have the bees now that are protecting the hive. You have bees that are worker bees. Now they go and collect the pollen. So from the time the bee is created, within seconds of its birth, it knows its exact duty. Now when Allah Ta'ala speaks about wahi, about revelation, now the queen bee in the hive knows what type of bees to produce. When there is a lack of worker bees, it starts to produce worker bees. When there is a lack of security bees, it will produce security bees. When there's a lack of bees to build the wax, so whatever deficiency there is in that society, it automatically knows. Now, how would that be known? There are thousands and thousands of bees now flying around. So this is it again where Allah Ta'ala speaks about wahi. Now, there's a lot of research done and a lot of programs done about these. Have a look at the ones made about the bees. You can see the qudra of Allah Ta'ala in that very structure. Now, firstly, you notice that when honey is produced, it's got no sand, no dirt, it's perfectly pure. No impurities in honey. Why is that a fact? Because the security bees, they stand at the mouth or the doorway of the hive, and every bee that collects pollen and comes back, they analyze, they check this bee. If there's any dirt on this bee, they will stop it from entering the hive. It will have to go clean itself, and then it can come back inside. Also, they're there to protect for any non or other insects that would try to enter. They would protect it and they'll give their life. You know, the bee only has one sting. Once it stings someone, it takes its life. So anything intruding to there, they will give their life for the cause of the bigger society. So then, also sometimes, wax melts, it gets hot. As soon as it now starts to get too hot and the wax starts to melt, the queen bee will send out a signal. And all the bees now will go and they'll land on the hive and flap their wings to cool down the hive and stop it from melting. And also in these programs you see that how do the bees, they find the pollen. They go out and find flowers and bring back pollen. Now once a bee goes out, and it can go out quite far, it can go like up to 1 kilometre away from the hive even, if there's nothing close by. Once it finds an ample source of pollen, it comes back and then it enters the hive. Then it does a dance. It dances in front of the other bees. The other bees are watching the dance of this bee. And in that dance itself is actually hidden directions. By observing the dance, they get GPS signals. They get the direction of where that bee got its honey from. So now they'll go into that direction. So all these things here, you see But why did Allah Ta'ala bring and speak about the Nahl? Because it shows you about the creation of Allah Ta'ala. Can such a structure come upon itself, bring its own self in existence? Also, now, we find that if the beehive is successful, it starts to get too much for one queen bee. So what does the queen bee do? At that point, it creates another queen bee. This only happens when the amount of bees become too much for one queen. It will create another bee, another queen bee. After giving birth to another queen bee, those two queen bees go into battle. They will fight. The dominant one, the one that wins the battle, gets to stay. Could be the original queen bee or the new queen bee. That gets to stay. And the loser of that battle will take half of those bees and migrate and start another colony of bees in another location. The qudra of Allah doesn't stop there. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks. ثم كلي من كل الثمرات فاسلكي سبل ربك ذللا يخرج من بطونها شراب مختلف ألوانها. Then go and take the pollen from different places and then come back, and in the bellies of the bee, from that pollen, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates a drink that has different colors. We're talking about the honey here. And again, honey is one of the miracles of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Some of the things about honey itself. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had a special dua for honey and for milk. Allahumma barik lana fihi wa zidna min. He used to say this special dua when he's taking honey or milk. Because in both of honey and milk is the qudra of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So look at honey first thing. Honey is one food that does not have an expiry date. As long as the honey is not contaminated with anything else, it does not have an expiry date. They've found sealed containers or jars of honey that are hundreds of years old, and it's still in perfect condition, consumable. So first thing, honey does not have a use-by date. You can keep it as long as you want, as long as it's sealed and not contaminated. Also, فيه شفاء للناس. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, in the honey itself, there is a medicine for us. There are so many benefits of honey. So it can bring down the fever of a person. So you can use it internally for health reasons and also for sicknesses and illnesses. They've already discovered now sore throats. They'll put the lozenges, they'll put honey in there. They put honey in all these medicines for viruses, all these type of things. First, internally, there is so much medicine for honey. One mentioned in the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, one sahabi said, Ya Rasulullah, inni akhi istataqa bi batnihi. So he said that a friend of mine, that he's got diarrhea. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Isquhu asala. Give him honey. So he went, gave him honey, and came back to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and said, Ya Rasulullah, I gave him honey, it got worse. His diarrhea got worse. So he said, give him honey. He said, Ya Rasulullah, I gave him honey already. He says that give him honey. Sadaq Allah wa kadhaba batna akhuk, because Allah Ta'ala speaks the truth and the stomach of your friend is not speaking the truth. Give him honey again. He gave him honey again, and his diarrhea went away. He was cured. So internally, but it doesn't stop internally. Externally also, honey has many benefits for us. Sore eyes. People have sore eyes. Now, you can get a stick. You know the stick they put, the surma stick they put in the eyes there? If you put honey in there and you put it in the eye, it soothes the eyes. And also honey has many other benefits. It also, like, it can be used as a face cleanser. You can actually use honey. The darker honey is better for that. Where you wash the face and then you rub honey into the skin. Leave it for a while, then wash that off. It actually cleanses and gives nourishment to the skin as well. So, my dear brothers, so these things which Allah Ta'ala mentions, and there's a lot of now promotion of the medicine that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam uses. There's no problem using Western medicine as well, but also is using with the intention of Sunnah will give us extra reward. وَقُولُ قَوْلِ هَذَا وَأَسْتَغْفِرُ اللَّهَ وَأَتُوبُ إِلَيْهِ. الحمد لله إن الحمد لله نستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا ثم صلى على خاتم النبيين وإمام المرسلين فقد أمركم الله بذلك في كتاب مبين فقال عز من قائل إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما وقال صلى الله عليه وسلم من صلى عليه واحدة صلى الله بها عليه 10 اللهم صل وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت وباركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد وارضي اللهم عن الأربعة الخلفاء أئمة الحنفاء أبي بكر الصديق وعمر الفاروق ذو النورين عثمان وأبي الستين علي وعن آل بيتك نبيك الطيبين الطاهرين وعن أزواج أمهات المؤمنين وعن الصحابة أجمعين وعن التابعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين وعنا معهم بمنك وكرمك وعفوك وإحسانك يا أرحم الراحمين اللهم اعز الإسلام والمسلمين اللهم أصلح حال المسلمين اللهم اجمع كلمتهم على الحق وردهم إلى دينك ردا جميلا اللهم ارفع علم الدين وانصر المجاهدين اللهم انصر المجاهدين الذين يجاهدون في سبيلك ولإعلاء كلمتك اللهم ثبت أقدامهم واربط على قلوبهم وكوش شوكهم وأنزل السكينة عليهم وانصرهم على عدوك وعدوهم إنك على كل شيء قدير ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار عباد الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون فاذكروا الله العلي الجليل يذكركم واشكروا على نعمه يزدكم ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون قيموا الصلاة